We gotta go back.
SK14.
I'm not a leftist, I'm a liberal, and we should just talk to each other. Okay, but what are we gonna talk about? Because you don't want to talk to people like me. You don't want to talk to anybody who's got anything to say. You want to talk to Jewy Jewstein, who says,
Got a lot of questions about Israel in the last week.
Yeah.
I apologize for my defense of our greatest ally in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I will not apologize.
We know you won't, bitch.
that my defense of
Epic,
Israel against
epic.
shut up, you bitch. This guy's the biggest scum-sucking, anti-American loser, traitor.
Who likes Cardi B? 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 Who likes Cardi B?
He's mad. He's mad. Look at that shriveled up little face.
Who likes Cardi B? Who likes
Eat a gamer moment.
SK14.
the last week.
Yeah.
I apologize for my defense of our greatest ally in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I will not apologize.
We know you won't, bitch.
That. But I'm always just very puzzled at times when I get the amount
I'm so
of
puzzled. I'm so puzzled all the time.
Middle East, the only place where all three monotheists, all monotheists
Somebody's got to go Joker mode.
Who likes Cardi B? 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 Who likes Cardi B?
All right, welcome back, guys, to the Death by Tyranny podcast. I know it's been a while, trying to get back into the routine of things. Might take me a little bit, might be a little slow start to the podcast today, but I wanna start it off anew, different. I know for a while there, for quite a few episodes, we would get into, some of the more mainstream news, some of the bigger events, what's happening as far as, conservatism in the United States, how far the Democrats and the progressives are shifting the Overton window over to their end, and things of that nature. And there still will be an underlining tone to that on the podcast here. But I realized I was making a huge mistake. I was doing something genuine, okay? I wanted to come on here and I wanted to help everybody see things from my viewpoint and try to get things back on track in America, and try to show conservatives, Republicans, whatever you label yourself as on the right side of politics, that we can be led astray. We had a lot of good things going for us. Obviously, that's no longer the case. And when that happens, people, they get nervous, they get scared, and things tend to start to crumble and fall apart. And I think that's where the GOP in America is right now. And so I wanted to do my part in anything that I possibly could to help everyday Americans not fall down that same rabbit hole that the GOP has fallen down 100 times over. Okay, but in doing that, I was really doing it for the people listening on their behalf, and everything that I know about this, right? About podcasting, about recording audio, about live streaming, all of it. All the people that have a following, for the most part, anyways, the genuine people, the truth tellers, they will tell you that you have to make the show, the podcast, the stream, something that you want to watch. Not something that you would watch, not something strictly for the audience, but something that you yourself would watch. And I don't know if that was necessarily the case. I wanted to tell everybody what I was doing, to gather information, all the information that I gathered, and made sure everybody else was aware of what was going on and all this, and this will come about naturally, okay? Because that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to listen to. But I want to get a little bit deeper than that. Obviously, most of the political shows on YouTube, on Spotify, whatever it may be that you're listening to, all of them are talking about the Ukraine-Russia stuff, and I honestly, I just don't have any interest in it. I don't know enough about it, to be completely honest, and I think America and Biden played a bigger part in what's going on over there than we're ever going to find out, and I don't like that. And so I think if I talked about it, it would naturally come off as me kind of being in defense of Russia. And I don't necessarily know that I want to come off like that, because they could be doing something that's genuinely horrible. They could also be doing something that's completely in their best interest, right? Many countries for thousands of years have conquered, taken from others, to benefit their own people. So just because everything that is in the media, we don't know, what the outcome's going to be, what the total loss is going to be. America has done a lot of shitty things in the pursuit of the benefit of the American people, and sometimes it's not just been in the benefit of the people, but the people who are in power. And so we have to take that into consideration. And so I just, it doesn't really interest me. I don't think there is really anybody who knows enough about it to talk about it and to be genuine. I think there's going to be too much bias there. And with the severeness of what's going on over there, I think the amount of biasness is going to distort the story in one direction or the other. And I have no interest in it. And I think for a while anyways, until something else happens, we're going to talk more about how do we get back to a better America, okay? I think we can do subtle things every day to make this be, to wish it into existence. They say, you got to dream the dream. What there's many sayings for this. One of the, and doesn't necessarily have to be huge things. And I think if you try to make it too impactful, too soon, too fast, you're just inevitably going to stop. It's almost like being a fat ass your entire life, right? And then New Year's Day, you decide that you're going to go on a diet, and then 2 weeks into it, you stop the diet, stop going to the gym, whatever it may be. It's too much too soon. And I think there are people out there that are doing this, that are, just way gung-ho too fast. And I think that's where the podcast was kind of heading. I was trying to take mainstream conservative listeners and saying, there's a lot more to this. But we can take that journey. We just need to take it a little bit slower. Okay? Hold on 2 seconds here. Yeah, and with not doing the podcast, sorry about that, got to get back into the routine of things, and I think the rest of the house does too. So, anyways, but one of the, so let's start off slow, simple, something that you can do that can help us kind of get back some of that 1950s era Americana, true American dream. There really isn't an American dream anymore. It's America is just kind of the place that you go to do all the things you wouldn't do anywhere else or aren't allowed to do anywhere else. And that's not necessarily a good thing. It can be, I guess, but in a lot of the cases nowadays, it's not, right? We're not getting the brightest of the bright coming to America. We're not getting the honorable, the most respectful people coming to America. In a lot of the cases, we're getting the exact opposite. We're getting the worst of the worst. We're getting everybody that nobody else wants. And if it's not the people that nobody else wants, it's because they want to come to America to do shit that they can't do wherever they're at. And that's definitely not making America a better place. And, we can all say, Putin is this monster for invading Ukraine and trying to forcefully take whatever he's doing, yada, yada, yada. But how many times has America invaded a country, made up some bullshit reason, and the country that they're invading has been, a holy land to these people, a religious land, and they hang gay flags from the embassy? How disrespectful is that? And that's why religion is so important to Americans, because we have to be the ones that hold the government accountable when they go and do shit like that. Do you honestly think that you're any better than Putin if you're cheering on for a government to go in and disrupt the lifestyle, the religion, the culture of, people for 1% of that population? If they really can't live without sticking stuff in each other's asses, they're going to end up in America anyways, right? They're going to leave their country to come do that, degenerate shit over here. So, no, I don't think it's worth the American lives that it would cost, nor the people of that country's lives, for America to go build an embassy and to hang LGBTQ flags at the top. And this happens all the time in America, that they're replacing, your religion, they're replacing your culture, they're replacing your lifestyle, everything you believe in, what you want your kids to believe in, the way you are raising your kids, for their degenerateness. That's the only way to explain it. So I can't really say where I work, but I will give a brief example. You guys have heard me talk about Cozy.tv on here before. This is the streaming platform that Nicholas J. Fuentes started because they were banned from everywhere else. Since the launch of Cozy.tv, a lot of other streamers, not just the ones involved in America First, have began streaming on Cozy.tv. Jesse Lee Peterson, Stu Peters, Alex Jones. So these are bigger names, and I would imagine there are bigger names yet to come to this platform. And they come to this platform because they can talk about the truth. They can talk about what they believe in, what they feel is, going on in America without being censored. As soon as they are able to monetize, which may never come, at least not in the near future, because there are so many people that are just totally against this. And you got to think, right? If you're the company that will offer free internet to your employees or whatever it may be, and they can get on Facebook, YouTube, pretty much everywhere that I'm aware of. You know, I don't think I've ever got onto a free Wi-Fi server and it say, you know, you're not allowed on this website. And yet, a lot of these free Wi-Fi offerings for employees, for customers, wherever it may be, are not allowing the employees or the customers to go onto cozy.tv. And you would immediately think that they would have to be streaming something just outrageous, right? Pornography, child abuse, something along these lines. And it's not. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen any nudity at all. No, not even any sexualization at all on cozy.tv. So why not allow customers and employees to use this Wi-Fi to access this website? Well, that's because they're saying things that they don't want you to hear, which is ironic, specifically talking about the place that I work at, banning this website from their Wi-Fi servers when they are shoving their beliefs in your face as soon as you walk into the door. Like I said, I can't give exact names, but I don't know too many, big store, the Walmarts and the Krogers, stores like this, the big chain grocery stores, that as soon as you walk into their facility, you are greeted by a rack of clothing that says Latino Power. We would think it unimaginable for you to walk into somewhere and have a t-shirt that says White Power. So why do you feel it's appropriate to have shirts that say White Power, Gay Pride, things like this? You can never do that with white culture. And it's to the point in this country where it's ridiculous. Not only is it ridiculous, but we have to start pushing back. And I know a lot of people they're afraid of this. They do a lot of this on cozy.tv. And I think this is why they're banned from these free Wi-Fi servers. They don't want you to hear that there are Americans out there, not only white Americans, but just Americans that have an issue with this. This anti-white agenda has reached a point of no return. Now we are forced with a decision to stand up and fight against it or join it. And the American regime at this point has decided to join it. I would think that somebody that is political or has political commentary on their podcast, their streams, whatever it may be, if they are allowed to get on there and promote Black Lives Matter, if you can walk into your place of work and see gay rainbow flags, Black Lives Matter, defund the police, but you can't utter the words anti-white agenda, that you would know you're on the wrong side. You're not the good guy. But still, for whatever reason, people are afraid to talk about this. They're afraid to be recorded and it be used against them at a later date. You know how many times I've heard, you have to be careful what you say. People are going to look at you differently. You could be fired. You could be this. I don't give a fuck. It is way more important to me for my children to grow up in a country where they are free from being hated for who they are, while their president stands up and declares that they live in the freest country in the world. That is truly hypocrisy. The president and his staff, his party, for the most part, are nothing but hypocrisy. We're supposed to be the righteous people in the world. America is supposed to be the big guy that stands up for everyone, that stands up for the small guy. But truly all America is doing at this point is bullying other people into their beliefs, while shitting and discriminating all over the beliefs and religion of the people who made this country what it is. And people are so brainwashed that they either don't see it or they don't care. And I find that appalling. So we have to realize that we can be heroes. We can be the good guys. We can stand up and do little things every single day to fight against this narrative. But their biggest weapon is to call us, a racist or a Nazi or a bigot. And while none of those things are true, you can also embrace the fact that they're the bad guys. And if they're calling you those names, then you're doing something they don't like, which would mean you're probably fighting against what they're doing. To be a hero or to be a good guy doesn't mean that you don't have to do things that aren't comfortable to you. In fact, most heroes, most good guys, most saviors of the day do things that they don't want to do, that they don't like to do, that most people don't like to do, that is uncomfortable. I was listening to a review of the new Batman movie. And while I don't care for the person that they made Batman, I still want to see the movie, because I thought Ben Affleck brought a little bit to the character Batman when he was Batman. But I guess in the new Batman, there is a feeling that, Batman, we know Batman's the good guy, right? But Batman is also supposed to be the hero that does what the other heroes won't do. He endures and embraces the dark. And it's not just Batman. There are people in real life that have said these same things. So it's just as simple as, to save the sheep from the wolves, you have to be a wolf yourself. To be a truly great man, a leader, a protector, you have to show people that you're not a woman. Now, you can find that a little sexist, and quite frankly, I don't care. But women weren't designed, nor are most of them capable of these nightmarish things, right? But if you had to choose one person to protect you, there was someone you knew that you could not defeat on your own, was coming to take your life or the life of someone that you care about, and you had to choose one person to protect you, would you pick the guy, the nice guy? Or would you pick a guy that you knew would literally tear somebody's fucking face off? So stop lying to yourself. A lot of heroes, a lot of great men in the world are capable of being monsters. And sometimes this is demanded of them. That is why the comic book character Batman is a deeper symbol of the hero than most characters in stories. Because it's real. It's not just the good. He is a hero that portrays the bad, that heroes must become to defeat evil. So while these progressives, leftists, Democrats are using terms like racist, Nazis, they're not using the correct words, first off. They have lost most of their meaning, second off. But just know they are calling you these things because they cannot defeat what you stand for. And once you can move past the name calling, you have became stronger than most of the politicians here in America. Most politicians will stand up in front of a podium and tell you that they are the good guy. They are fighting for America, the American dream, the American people. But the first sign of name calling, they back down and they disavow people who are truly fighting for American patriots, for the small guy, for the American without a voice. And those people, the people actually doing on the right thing, actually telling the truth, are made to be villains. They're not villains. But sometimes heroes have to do things that the villains do. It's just the way that it is. That is the truth. So I think for at least the closer couple of episodes after this one, I want to start talking about things like that. If there's extremely important things that I feel like nobody's really paying attention to, absolutely, we'll call those out, we'll point to them, especially politicians doing tyrannical things. But we have to reset the mindset of Americans. We have to do that so that the people, when it's their turn to decide the culture, when it's their turn to rebuild this mess that we have made this country, they can do the right thing. That they know what needs to be done. That when they stand up against sending $3 billion to Israel, and instead of just stating the obvious, the facts, that money is better spent here, especially now, right? We all know that the economy is getting ready to just implode. We know that everything that is being propped up in this country is fake. People are selling their houses for almost double the value, and it sells before it's even listed. This is not sustainable. It has happened before. I have preached this so many times. Like most things, this has all been done before. We can learn from the past. And not only has it happened in the past, where it has been written down in books, but it has happened so recently that I can remember. I seen it with my own eyes. I lived through it. And Gen Z and Gen X aren't the people calling the shots right now. So the people that are have seen this. They've lived through it. In fact, most of them caused it the last time. And our real only hope to save this country is to make sure that Gen X, Gen Z knows that this has happened before. In all likelihood, it will probably happen again. And they have to be able to make the right decision for this country. And without that, there really isn't any hope. But until then, you know, all we can do is try to show them so they know the right thing to do when it's their time to make those decisions. And, you know, maybe have a little bit of fun. Not be degenerate, not help tear down our society, not help further remove religion from our culture. None of those things. We need the exact opposite of that, to be truthfully honest. But we can, you know, not always be so serious. We can have these deep conversations with each other about things that we enjoy. So one of the things that I try to do every day, and it's very, it's not, I'm not the only one who does this, okay? So it's not like this great, tremendous idea. But I think we all know that we're on our phones too much. I am for sure guilty of that, okay? I'm not even saying that you have to, you know, put the phone aside or whatever. But why do we need a phone and a smartwatch? Why can't we just wear a normal watch? And this does a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot, and I'm not saying go buy a Rolex. You know, I would love a Rolex, so I can't afford it. I will probably in the near future buy a more expensive watch than I have right now. And I like the idea of being able to wear, you know, one watch for everything. But I think you should, you know, have that kind of watch that you can clean out the bed of the truck, go to work, all those things, as well as like a nicer watch for more special occasions. And this really has nothing to do with being able to tell the time. It has everything to do with getting back time. And I know that's impossible, and that might sound ridiculous, but just hear me out for a second. In a society where people have a smartphone and a smartwatch, right, they are constantly taken out of the now. And they are probably forever lost in the vast unknown of the future. Now, while we should plan for the future, to be lost in it, to be consumed by it is not good. And I have plenty of stories on that subject as well. But let's, for now, since we're taking it slow, one step at a time, let's get back to the now. So you can, there's tons of things that we need to know the time for, right? That we need something to be able to tell the time on, and we could certainly do that on our phones. But how likely, how often do you get out your phone to check the time and just check the time and put it right back? How many times are you in a scenario where you can't take out your phone at all? These are some of the benefits of having a normal watch. So we can just pause for a second, look at the time that is happening now. But once we take that step, looking at a watch, a mechanical, traditional watch, knowing that this technology has been around for 100 years, even if it's on a subconscious level, is taking us back a little bit. And we had something great in this country, and we can get back to it and then move forward in the correct path. But we are so far off of the correct path that we have to find ourselves again. We can't just keep going in the directions that we're going in, and we can't just go in directions blindly. We have to, kind of like a compass, we have to find north and then figure out what direction we need to go from there. So to get back to the present time, and then to try to remember the better parts, the best parts of this country, and bring those back, even if it's by just wearing an old school traditional mechanical watch. And then maybe after you've become accustomed to that, we can go back a little bit further. Now, if you go over to England, you can very rarely even find a pocket knife that is legal to carry. But that's England. We're talking about America, where a grown-ass man should own a pocket knife and a wristwatch. Now, do you see where I'm going here? I know it's a little confusing, but let's get back to wearing the traditional wristwatch. Then let's get back to always wearing that wristwatch and carrying a pocket knife. And then we can continue down this past until we find a point, the best points in this country. And the reason why I'm starting with something so personal as a wristwatch and a pocket knife is because that has to start with you. If you can't change yourself, if you can't hold yourself accountable, how are we supposed to hold other people accountable? How are we supposed to change all of America if you can't even remember to put on a watch in the morning? If you don't have self-control enough to look at a screen every 30 seconds, if you don't have the discipline and the respect of a tool like a pocket knife, how are you going to change the politics in this country? It's absurd to think that you could. And then we can just continue down that path to the past. So, my dad's told me a saying, and I don't want to get things, too in the weeds here, but I'll tell you the saying so I'm not taken out of context, or you take this as something else than what I'm actually saying here. But my dad always told me to you have to keep moving forward, right? Even if you're standing still, you're going backwards because everybody else is moving forward. And I think that applies to trying to better yourself as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a Christian. This is an amazing concept to have. But that does not mean that we can't get back to the things in the past that were great and that we should have never left behind. This does not involve us standing still or not moving forward. It just means remembering something that we forgot. In 1940s America, they're all of the clothing outfitters in the country, you could probably go to and find a suit, unless they were something specific like a hat maker or a watchmaker, something like that. But for the the most part, if you went somewhere where you could buy something considered underwear, you could buy something considered a tie or a suit or, clothes of that nature. Whereas here recently, I've been looking for a suit. It's very hard to find a suit, and to have one tailored or custom made is almost non-affordable to, middle-class America. This is outrageous. Now, I know trends and culture changes, but the American dressing up and putting on a tie, that did not change. It just became unaffordable. We became too fast to take the time to look as important as we feel. We took too many shortcuts. But no matter how many shortcuts we take, the well-dressed man at first glance will always be more respectable than, a guy with his pants hanging off of his ass. So dressing up, putting on a tie, looking nice, taking care of yourself, that trend never changed. We just became too lazy. That is still a very highly sought after look. Look at even rap culture. When, there's rappers with the chains and the, all fucking, their pants hanging off their ass and bitches and motherfuckers and super high and fucked up all the time. Absolutely, there's that rap culture. But once you become, a great artist, once you are no longer a rapper per se, but you are an artist, take somebody like Kanye West, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, whatever the fuck he calls himself nowadays. When you look at people like that, sure, did they kind of act degenerate and dress retarded? Yeah, absolutely. But now that they have been able to slow down, they dress nice. They wear fucking suits. And they wear a real old school traditional mechanical watch. Why is that? Because that trend never changed. That is still the look that you go for when you want to demand respect. When you want to get shit done, you put on a fucking tie, you put on a watch, and you walk with confidence. And we just, it's not that we lost it. It's not that, like I said, trends didn't change. That is still the look that you go to. But nowadays, we can't even dress like that to show respect in a church. We would rather be comfortable and wear jeans and, well, I don't have time for God, so I definitely don't have time to dress nice. I'll just go in there and walk like a hillbilly and, sit my ass down, probably not pay attention, and play on my phone the whole service. Why even do it at that point? Do you think your ass sitting in the pew, not paying attention, not showing respect, looking like a disgusting piece of trash, you think that's accomplishing something between you and God? It might make you feel better, but it's not doing anything. And it probably doesn't make you feel better at all. It's probably just as a shitty feeling as it is an attempt at doing something that would make you feel good, that would get you in a better mind space to do everything else in your life. And like I said, you can't argue that trends changed and that's just not, the way anymore. Yes, it is. It is absolutely the way. When you want to be respected, when you want to show respect, when you respect somebody and they invite you to a wedding or whatever, religious ceremony it may be, you want to look your best. Well, take your fucking time and look good. Look respectable. So to do that, we have to get back to the now. We have to look back to the past where people took their time. And is it easier? Sure. Is it simpler? Yeah. But it's just not what's right. The right thing to do would have been to take your time to dress nice for yourself more than anybody else. And we just don't have that in America. Now, if we expect for Gen Z and Gen X to save our asses, this is probably one of the least things we can do is show them. This look still demands respect. It still gets shit done. It gets your ass up in the morning. It gives you a purpose to walk out that door to accomplish goals. It makes you feel better. That's the least we can do, right? Well, you're not going to be able to show Gen X and Gen Z that this is something worth taking your time and doing every day. In most cases, if you're not doing it yourself. Like I said, we have to change ourself. And there's even things being put in our way to not do these things. Now, I have a conspiracy theory about why that is, but I think that has more to do with the establishment, the deep state, wanting to take control, wanting to be able to manipulate you. You're a little harder to manipulate when you take control of your life, when you slow things down, and when you look like $1 million, right? It's a lot harder to demand something from someone looking like shit. So I think this was done for a reason. I believe that not looking like that was made harder by the establishment, by the deep state, by the people, on Wall Street and Hollywood and the elites. They all still dress like that. They all still demand respect. The people who don't dress like that, the people who can't afford to dress like that anymore, the people who don't have access to dress like that anymore, is me and you. And we probably didn't get to this point on our own, right? We were offered, the easy way, the lazy way, and we took it, once, twice, and then it just became a custom. We have to get out of that. And it's kind of hard to really get into it, but I was talking to my son today, and he said he had a life skills class, and the skill that he learned today was to be kind. Now, 50, 60 years ago, you didn't have to be taught to be kind in school. Something like life skills, to me, that sounds like balancing a checkbook, being able to do your taxes, which we don't offer our children in school anymore either. But I think our tax dollars can be spent a little bit better than being kind. And quite frankly, when they're talking about being kind nowadays and the context that they're deciding to use it in, they're not talking about saying please and thank you. They're not talking about helping out someone in need. They're not talking about giving to charity. They're not talking about, helping an old lady cross the road. They're not talking about any of that shit. What they're talking about is don't call gay people faggots. That's what they're worried about. They're not worried about being kind. They're worried about being inclusive. And to be inclusive, that's a slippery slope. It sounds good, But most shit that the government does, most the propaganda that they offer us in public schools nowadays, it all sounds good, right? A lot of the laws that they pass in Congress, these things are all like, Save the Kitten, Freedom Act. You know what I'm saying? So, sure, being inclusive, it sounds good, but they have no bounds. And so they're being kind all the time. And I was having this discussion today, sure, you can say that being kind to people will get you places, but the people that are in places at the top of the ladder, I promise you they were not always kind. You're right? A lot of those people are assholes, and it's not because they can afford to be assholes because they're at the top. It's because they demanded at some point in their life, they decided to take charge, and in some cases, to get those things that they needed to get to the top of the ladder, it probably wasn't the kindest way. It sure in the fuck probably wasn't the easy way. So, and this is just more words that are being lost in translation because everything has lost its meaning. There is no actual fact, right? There's only perspective. There's your truth, my truth. Everybody's got fucking truth, but there is no actual truth. That's where we are at in this country, is that, people don't watch the news anymore because we're not watching news for facts. We're not watching news to figure out what is. We're watching news to figure out how you feel about it. Well, how you feel about it doesn't really do me any good. Right? I mean, sure, I can probably use that to my advantage in some scenarios, but I mean, at the most simplest form, knowing how you feel about how it's raining outside or, who the president is, doesn't do me a whole lot of good. So, and this is where it's really hard to separate church from state. Right? And that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. I would just leave it at the whole idea of separation from church and state. That had nothing to do with keeping the church out of the state's business. It had everything to do with keeping the state out of the church's business, right? Like most things, the communication there was lost and is now being used for the advantage of, whoever has control of the power. Whatever their perspective of that meaning, that saying, that law is what is. And this comes to many people's demise. I was listening to Modern Monarchist podcast today where he was talking about, how monarchs in Europe, how when they didn't treat the Catholic Church for what it was, but what their perspective of it was, and how they used it for their advantage, this always ended up in their demise, right? And this led to Protestant and, these off branches of all these different forms of Christianity. And now in America, a lot of people look down on Catholics. A lot of people have this, they have allowed their mind to be manipulated to where Catholicism is this, pedophilia ring or something, right? Now, are there pedophiles that are in the Catholic Church? Yeah, sure. All of them have them. And in fact, in most cases, the Catholic Church have less of them than most other religions. But it's to say that, somewhere going along that path, that religion really started to lose its grip and its worth, not so much on an individual level or for your soul or anything like that, but as far as like building a country and the great things that it could do, in that schism, right? That separation. And for as many, of these Christians that think Catholics are wrong, there's that many Catholics that think those people are wrong, and you see the issue here. It's just a inevitability for conflict, and it's not good. It's one of the reasons why I'm, I've said this before, one side of my family is Pentecostal, the other half is Catholic. I've decided to look into, embracing a little bit more of the Catholic side, just because I feel like when you want to find out the truth, you have to go to the beginning. Without, the Catholic Church, there really is no other Christianity to be heard of. And something that modern monarchist was talking about was that you can't really find a whole lot of things that talk bad of Martin Luther, which I find that to be true. There's a Lutheran church right down the street from me. But for a lot of people that don't know this, most of the churches that allow homosexual, heads of the church, or accept homosexuality and some of these more degenerate acts and things, those are usually fall under the Lutheran umbrella. I mean, there are some others. That's not to say that, none of the other ones kind of play into that, or non-denominational or anything like that. But this was really brought on by like the Lutheran Church, and how Martin Luther had this idea, that it was your relationship with God and your perspective. It wasn't the Word of God. It was, your perspective of the Word of God, blah, 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 blah. But, all to say that, he was actually a degenerate. He did a lot of fucked up shit, and you just can't, you don't find a whole lot of that. And it probably has a lot to do with, the fact that England had a lot of power and control in the stages in Europe when the kind of Catholic Church was losing its stronghold there, and obviously England and all the conflicts there with religion. But I'm sure there was a lot of articles and facts and things being brushed under the rug that shouldn't have been, that we should know about. So, but yeah, and that's kind of off topic anyway. So I just really wanted to, these are kind of along the lines of what I'm talking about. We could absolutely talk about the weather, right? And we could talk about how, this person said that, and it's having, this impact on these people and this party and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, that stuff's not really doing anything for us. That's not really making us a better Christian, a better father, a better husband. But there are things we can be doing to be better at those things. So I think I want to have more of those conversations with people. And I do want to get back to, bringing people on here. Because the one-sided conversation thing, while it is very entertaining to listen to, it doesn't really meet the best conclusion possible, if you get what I'm saying. And not only this, but I'm kind of forced to do more podcasts now. I wish I could upload to Gab. I don't know what happened, if my internet just got shitty and now that's the standard, or if the streaming software that I use changed something in an update or something. Because I was really enjoying Gab and uploading to Gab, even though I couldn't go live. So here, and I think it's about 2 weeks, all of my strikes will be gone off of YouTube. And since we're not really talking about COVID or any of the more fake news stuff or whatever they want to call it, I shouldn't have too many issues with getting those strikes back. So we'll probably be spending a lot more time on YouTube until I find out whatever issue is causing me to not being able to upload to Gab. Because once that happens, I'm going back to Gab regardless. Even if the following does elevate to the level that it is on Gab over at YouTube, I don't care. Just because the quality of the people that listen and watch over there are a lot better than the people on YouTube, right? So there's a lot more conversation to be had. There's a lot more potential to network, all of these things, right? And at the end of the day, I do want to start making things that are for me, because like I said, that's what they tell you to do. If you want to make it on YouTube or as a streamer, as a podcaster, you have to make what you yourself wants to watch or listen to. So I do want to try to bring it back to that arena for me. And I like having these kind of more philosophical ideas about conservatism in America and how we get back the good things. Because could you imagine, just see this with me for a second, the like 1950s, right? Me and my wife were watching a documentary on I Love Lucy. Oh, the aesthetics of that era, the fashion, the sound, the lights, the clean cities, everything was big and new and awesome. Could you imagine all that without some of the shittier things they had back then, like some of the hygienic technological advances we have today, but still be capsuled in that era? It would be fantastic. So, and we can absolutely get back there, and we don't have to stop moving or not go forward to get there. We just have to remember these things. We have to not let them be lost to the anarchy of progressiveness. We have to fight the American regime and the deep state and all, this LGBTQ, whatever the fuck bullshit, this brainwashing of our children. We can't let them let us forget how awesome America was when we embraced our religion and our culture, when we were not affected so much by words like being called a racist or a Nazi. Now, I know they kind of had their own issues with like communism and all that bullshit back then too, but that's what I'm saying, man. Like, could you imagine having all the awesome parts without any of the bad parts? We can do that. Why can't we do that? If you honestly think that can't be recaptured and we can't have that again, and that's not what's best for America, then why? Because I can't find a reason why not. Why not wake up every single day, look like $1 million, have a purpose, have that amazing feeling every step that you take in the morning, and walk out the door every day with that aura, right? That just 1950s kick-ass Americana shit, man. We can get back there. And along this journey, along with me becoming the things that I'm talking about today, me trying to remember some of this stuff, me trying to share some of that with other people. Along that line, we're not just going to do that, right? You can't look $1 million and it stopped there. Once you look like $1 million, you got to have the confidence that you look like $1 million. And once you have that confidence, you can't let people talk to you the way that they talk to you, right? And to do that, you have to demand that respect. So all these things start from that place. It starts from you putting on that tie before you walk out that door. I'm telling you, it's going to be awesome. And I know I'm not the only one. I hear it all the time, especially from conservatives. That's the weird shit about conservatives and like the mainstream Fox News bullshit, right? They want that. They want that, that look, that feel, that confidence, that stride. But they don't want to do none of the shit that comes along with it, right? They want to be so inclusive, They don't want to offend the fucking bitches wearing the pussy hats. They don't want to, offend the gays that dress like women. Fuck that. Not only are we going to recapture the greatness of that time, but we don't give a fuck if you're offended doing so. All right? But with that, guys, stay safe. I love you guys. Stay prepared. God bless. America first. Peace, y'all.